Hi there, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special interview with someone who I think you'll all recognise. No, it's not that chair, but it is a person who, if you're new to the channel, if you've been checking out the channel since we returned after we had to restart everything, then you might not recognise his face. Maybe watch him from the awards ceremony for last year. You can hear his estate in the background. He will be back soon. He is a man who is very, very prolific on our previous channel and will be returning to us. He's been going through the hardships of life right now, but slowly making his way back. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Bubbles. Hi, Bubbles.
Welcome to Domino's Pizza. Can I take your order?
Yes. Can I please have an interview for 1 hour?
Oh, shit. Is that gluten-free?
No.
What's up, people?
The world can see your beautiful face once again.
Oh.
Here, I found that Bubbles always made for brilliant thumbnails for his videos. Every time we did a video thumbnail, it was always just one of your eyebrows raised.
Yeah.
Can you smell what Bubbles is cooking?
It was me questioning all my decisions, but yet The Rock stole my thing. I don't know. I think there's a copyright thing there. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just more of a...
I was seriously, for a long time, I thought you had changed your name and become the most highly paid actor in Hollywood, and I found out different guy. Totally different guy.
Well, it's... We have a lot in common.
I can see that.
Samoan heritage. Definitely the baldness. Between those two, and I mean, the intense workout ethic.
I was about to say, you've both achieved similar body mass.
Yes, him in terms of muscle, me in terms of ego. Since we started this channel, I find we're on a level playing field now. Obviously, there's a slight money difference. Slight. So he's
really, in which way?
Well, from what I understand now, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Anybody who's listening,
can't imagine you would be.
From what I understand, he doesn't shop at a Walmart or an Aldi like I do.
Oh, come on, that's absurd.
I know he's too good. He's in a fucking Waitrose. That's what he's doing now.
It's primarily absurd because I didn't know they had Walmart in England now. Well, I guess that's Asda, isn't it? Asda's Walmart.
or a whole. They have. Well, yeah, technically. We got Whole Foods in London, so.
Oh, you
fuck the world.
Posh dick.
Oh.
Well, now.
Yeah, I've never seen it before. I know they'll have security because of people like me. We're going economic shopping. It's just like money porn tourism kind of thing. We're just going, oh, so this is what happens when you fuck the world in a bank. This is awesome. Organic, you say?
Well,
they're all organic. You didn't fucking clone it from a robot.
I do like the fact that when they talk about... I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some things that are GM which are horrible. Go to America and you'll see them. But I like the fact that when they talk about genetic modification, they don't realise that almost all vegetables are in some way genetically modified because you selectively breed them. That's genetically modifying it. So there's virtually nothing which isn't genetically modified. I mean, your wheat won't be wheat, your bananas will be green.
I know.
Dogs. Anyway.
Cats.
Yeah, there's no dogs.
All that stuff.
We'll have to cull all the dogs because they're genetically modified. All your dogs.
Wow.
Send them outside.
I know. Once again, China leading the way.
Well, before we get started,
that's what those markets are for. They're here to make sure we get organic people. Don't fucking hate on them. Don't give it but we got COVID. No. They're saving the planet.
COVID was an organic thing you're saying that was... Okay. I'm not even going to get into that subject. So, before we go any further, I do want to address one little issue because as I was saying when I was introducing you while you were in the toilet... I was introducing you while your trousers were down, is that the one of the things that a lot of people who know the channel since it restarted won't recognise you. But obviously the channel is now Baka Broadcast, but it was originally Baka Breakdown.
That's why you have a better channel.
Oh, bless you. But for leaving. But the original name Baka Breakdown was actually the name that you gave, and I've still got a copy of that conversation we had in the group chat on Facebook. So me, you, and James, after coming over from doing the radio show, we had to rename it because that was the Sapro broadcast, which obviously was recorded in Sapro, but then it was changed. It became more of an international thing, and we realised that the format was very different. We were all recording from different places on the planet now, and so we just kind of went with, well, you came up with Baka Breakdown, which is now obviously been renamed Baka Broadcast since the band who shall not be named shat on our parade.
What I love is, I love the way you say that. It was more international. Oh, like, live from this shithole. recorded from this basement, recorded from this living room, and recorded from this cellar. Cellar. We can't afford a cellar. The way you sell it, it's international. And there's two countries close together. One is Ireland, one is England, and then there's Japan. I can only say that is marketing at its best. You have finally become the thing you swore to destroy. You fucking hypocrite.
Well, I'm so glad that you're Southern Irish, because if you were Northern Irish, then you'd have to be part of the UK, and then it would just affect the quality of my international claims. So
yeah, plus I'd be wearing a balaclava still, but you know, little things.
We remember you from your rebel days, yes.
Don't worry, now I get to wear a mask and it's all completely normal.
Wait, what? That looked like a tiny little handgun. Can you show that again?
No, it didn't. No, it actually looks like a tiny little jockstrap, but you know, the worst part is, no matter what, with a face like mine, I'm wearing one of these, it just looks like I'm wearing some woman's underwear.
I got to admit, the fact that you've gone for the black one as well.
I just have one of those.
I'm going to show this to the camera now, just so everyone knows this who's watching it. I can see Bubbles' camera, but due to an issue with the recording, he can't actually see my camera. Now, some of you might know, over here in the corner, I have like a set of like little, like, you know, those little engineer style shelf things where they just keep their little tools in there. Now, I label them, and one of them is actually called masks. You can see I've drawn a little picture of a mask, and there's just all of the hoarded masks that I have in here. And this isn't even all. I've got more of them over there because they couldn't all fit in here. To be fair, and there's the one which was sent by the government. The one in plastic wrapping is the government one, and these are all the ones I got from the 100 yen shop.
I can hear that. I can hear all of that, and yet all I'm thinking is Quentin Tarantino and a gimp mask. That's all I'm thinking. You're just like, surgical, 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 weekend.
Absolutely. I've just realised this is so overstuffed that I can't actually get it back into the One moment while I try and... it was actually, what happened is I wasn't one of those first day hoarders. It was because there was limits on how many you could buy. And most of the shops were saying you could go and buy one packet, but they were quite expensive. And there was a 100 yen shop, which is basically 100 yen shop being like Poundland for the English. And they sold like a pack of... There you go. They sold like a pack of 3 for 100 yen, but you could only buy one a day. So basically what I did is I went back and I bought them every day. And it took a few weeks before I realised the logistics of buying 3 masks every day would mean that I was buying them at 3 times the rate I needed them, which means that I suddenly realised, well, I hope the pandemic is going to go on as long as I thought, or at least 3 times as long as I've been buying them. Luckily, it has been going on long enough that it has somewhat justified my purchases, but I do have to store them in the meantime.
I know you have enough of them to make yourself one of those mankinis. I know you have enough. I know there's a thought in your head that's like, once this pandemic is over, mofos, I'm hitting the beach, Borat style.
Actually,
2020.
I'll tell you the most awful thing I did with a mask, and this is going to be something where anyone who hasn't got a mask is going to hate me for this. A friend of mine were doing like some comical little video projects for
Yeah.
I think some people know I opened up a TikTok account, but deliberately to use it like a lot of people use it like Vine, just for doing stupid little videos.
Yeah.
And so we made this video called Dogzilla, where we got the dog that lives here, and we just filmed a lot of stuff really tackily from low angles, and had all of the food it was eating just basically made to look like people. So it was basically massacring food. However, one of the discussions we had involved a scene where one of the food had to parachute down, and we made a parachute out of a face mask.
Let this be a lesson, kids. If you think that you haven't had enough spare time during the pandemic,
Watch Dogzilla on my TikTok.
Uncle Howard has managed to not only open a TikTok account, but use a TikTok account as it's meant to be used, which is disturbing in and of itself. I mean, there's so much right and yet so much wrong with that.
Ever since Vine went down, and Facebook started having stories, I've been desperately looking for somewhere to make stupid shit videos. And don't you dare, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard's original student films will now premiere on TikTok. Oh, they're angsty. Oh, look at that. They're angsty. Yes, this is what we came for.
Wait. You obviously, like any school, I've got a school student. I've got to make my first ever horror movie at some point where I'll employ a random friend of mine to pretend to be a slasher and run around killing everyone, yeah? As every student ends up making a horror film at some point.
That is utter bollocks, because I know what you actually did. You got a friend to dress up as a Tory candidate for your area.
What is it with you and GIMP outfits?
Election, which is no, a Tory.
Yeah, that's what I mean. GIMP outfits.
Well, actually, you're not wrong on that. What's his name? Jacob Rees-Mogg. Ugh. I mean, he's the right build for it, and he has one of those faces that needs a mask, but still.
Him and Max Mosley.
Yeah. Oh, good God. He looks. Do you know what he looks like? He looks like
a tosser.
One of the four horsemen. He looks like Plague.
But he looks like one of the four horsemen of the most boring apocalypse you can imagine. I mean, a really dull apocalypse, a slow moving Brexit.
Hey, do you know how badly you need good people to run an apocalypse? I mean, the admin alone, it's not all hack and slash.
Well, in all fairness...
Who buys the weaponry? Who feeds the fucking horses?
You don't have to worry too much about being audited, because at least afterwards the paperwork all gets burnt.
Where were we? Oh, yeah. You run a channel. Good on you.
We were here for a reason, weren't we? We were here for a reason. So anyway, yeah, I mean, as we set the scene, I wanted to sort of bring this back a little bit, because there's something we've discussed lightly, but maybe not in a huge amount of detail. I'm kind of really intrigued, because you have a lot of knowledge about... Well, your knowledge seems to be mainly steered towards anime when it comes to Japanese things. I'm just kind of intrigued, because obviously we hear James talk about where his knowledge has come from so much. I was intrigued, how did you... I mean, when was the first time you really noticed anything about Japan? You had any sort of awareness of Japan or Japanese culture?
Well, first I heard of the Asian, and I looked into it, and there were some.
At that time in the UK, they were not a visible presence.
Ireland,
yes.
You fuck.
I apologise. We'll get to taking that over eventually. Yeah?
100 fucking years. Yeah, you're coming back, aren't you, you fucks? Come join us after Brexit. We tried that once.
We're desperately trying to get there now that Brexit's happened. Like, we made a mistake. Please take us, Ireland. Please take us. Please take us.
So, I come from an anime perspective, but there's a lot of things when you say that, you immediately picture the weeboo, waifu bullshit that's going on, not lately, just in general. But I never came to it from that. strangely enough, the first things that kind of introduced me to Asian entertainment culture was a combination of Chinese myths and legends, because my granddad actually had a book about that.
Okay.
And I used to live with my grandparents for a good while. And what happened was he was an artist, so he would paint, he would craft, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And he presents artwork and stuff. But he loved reading as well. So he would read stories to me, and they could be all sorts of different stories. It was the first time that I heard of Asterix and Obelix. Obelix, sorry.
Yeah.
So
don't worry, I can't say it either.
He had the books. Oh, just like Asterix. That's this little star over the Obelix. No, that's not how this works. Anyhow,
I always say obelisk.
You had things like that. Yeah, but the fact that they were comics.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I suppose technically I would call them graphic novels, but he would have. He had them. I don't know how long he had them or why he had them. Maybe he just had them because I came along. A couple of like Tintin adventures and stuff like that. But he also had like Chinese myth and legends kind of books as well. They weren't done in a graphic novel style. Proper books, few pictures, that's it.
Yeah.
But he loved the artwork of the traditional kind of Chinese artwork. So when we think of a dragon, our impression or how we draw a dragon in kind of Europe, or definitely at least in kind of Ireland, England, North America, big hulking thing, 4 legs, big fuck off wings. Yeah. Whereas in Asia,
like a little Nordic
it's more
dragon.
of a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so I could see the differences, and I was interested in that. But I was also growing up during the 80s, and in the 80s, Ireland only had 2 channels, RTE1, RTE2. But because of the wonders of broadcasting, it meant we got the extra 2 channels at the time from the UK, BBC One, BBC Two, and later ITV, then Channel 4.
Okay.
But it was ITV Saturday morning cartoons, and I think RTE had a similar kind of setup, where you start to see the what you can term as classics, but when you rewatch them, they're really bad cartoons. So, but I was watching things like Ulysses 31, which was a French-Japanese kind of collaboration based on, obviously, the Greek mythology of Ulysses. Loved it. Loved the theme tune. Fucking brilliant.
We're going to have to check that one out. Going to have to check that one out.
Oh, yes, you will.
Some
Transformers.
Straight banger.
Yeah. Oh, it's thunderously 80s. You know, not as rigorously defined as thunderous as the Thundercats theme, which was actually written by, I think, you know the guy who did Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke.
Oh yeah.
His dad actually wrote the theme for it.
No.
That's yeah. So, you know, that's the weird thing. But
I'm glad that I didn't watch that program growing up, or it would have just ruined my childhood. If I had been someone who watched that, luckily I didn't watch that program. We didn't really have much TV when I grew up, but okay. Interesting. Is there any theme tunes quite as powerful as Monkey Magic?
Man, watching that, 2 series of absolute brilliance, as far as I'm concerned, because like I was watching this kind of stuff, I remember the theme tune. Obviously, the series came out when I was born, but I wouldn't see it till years later. But in between that, like, it was mostly cartoons. And when you saw Monkey Magic, you're like, why are their mouths so weird? Because I'm a kid. I don't fucking know.
And why?
Why is they speak Japanese?
Why is that Tripitaka guy so attractive?
Nah, listen. Between Tripitaka and Boy George, I I'm amazed it turned out like it did.
I was about to say,
I had a lot of fucking questions in my life.
I had no confusion about Boy George, except for I didn't know that was an option for people. But it's like with Tripitaka, they're saying, no, this is a guy. You're like, are you sure that's a guy? No, that's a guy. Are you really sure that's a guy? Are we?
I like the way you say. I didn't know people had that option. I was like, to be a Buddhist monk. That's kind of obvious, but
no, Boy George.
And then once I saw Boy George on the A-Team with Mr. T, I thought, yeah.
No way. Did that happen? What?
That happened. And Boy George actually later said he took it for the money because he was in a severe heroin addiction. But during the 80s, what happened was with cartoons, they got farmed out to Japan to do animation. So although you might have seen some Japanese stuff, like, I don't know, Speed Racer, stuff like that.
That was Japanese?
That was originally Speed Racer, but then got into the collaborations where America especially was farming out their animation. So Transformers was originally a Japanese property. It's a bit convoluted, the Transformers idea, but it has origins in Japan. It went to America. It got changed into the Transformers, and the animation and the toys were coming out of Japan.
Yeah.
So there was. So and the only reason I know this is because I started seeing weird fucking names in the credits because I used to watch the credits, and I was like, "Is that even a fucking word?" Because again, I'm a kid
in Ireland,
and I'm young in Ireland, and I'm just like, okay, cool. So we get closer to the end of the 80s, and that's when you have things like Super Channel. Which I don't know if you remember. It was
never heard of that.
It was a European channel, right?
Okay.
And it's still, I think it's still running today under like Super Sports or something. But they had an anime lineup, so they had Robotech, Star Blazers, or Space Battleship Yamato.
This is all stuff that I don't actually know, but I'm listening and nodding because the people watching this will probably know. Because
they'll probably ridicule me, and I can't see your face because you're hiding it from me, you whore. But
I'm staying serious, I promise.
Put your trousers on. But it kind of went from there, and then the big thing that kind of branched out, that caught my attention, was actually Manga UK, which started distributing videos and had their own magazine as well. And Akira came along, and I saw that a few years after. Obviously, I got it on video. But Akira, Fista, those were my first two anime purchases because I had VHS, so I bought both of them. I had no idea what Fista and North Star was. I just saw some ripped dude. And I saw a trailer for him kicking the shit out of people, and I'll have some of that. I didn't know that was an option. And also, coincidentally, first time I saw those big old anime titties.
All right,
so,
okay. And you're thinking, what's wrong there? Is that something wrong?
No, I was quite clear on my Boy George Tripitaka thing. I was like, no, look, titties. Movies! Yeah, those are fine. Those are okay. But like some people, depending on the location that you're in, Dragon Ball is often cited, but I never saw Dragon Ball. I never saw Dragon Ball until the 2000s.
Well, they tend to wear trousers.
Nice. Nice. He wears the gi, you fucking martial art ignorant. But in terms of exposure, I wasn't in a group of people that necessarily would know about this stuff, like being into sci-fi, fantasy, you know, especially cartoons are for kids, comics are for kids. That's the era that we're in. I wouldn't have necessarily been able to access a group that was like that. So my impressions growing up, obviously you have martial arts movies and gangster movies in the background, but growing up, I would only have an entertainment view of Japan. It's only as I got older, obviously, I figured out.
But I think that's normal. I think for most people, I mean, we were talking about. Some people take this as an offensive word, but I think it actually accurately describes a certain type of people. When you talk about the sort of weeboo culture, you're talking about people who. There's nothing wrong with being into a culture. There's nothing wrong about being geeky about the culture. But the problem is that they know about the culture only, and therefore they feel. They know about the entertainment side of the culture only, and therefore they feel they know about the culture. So a lot of them come here and they get very confused. I remember a friend of mine a Japanese friend of mine, she was talking about the fact that she went out with a Western guy once, and she didn't realise he was a weeboo. He was like really into all Japanese culture, but he said he was into Japanese culture, and when he turned up, he didn't know anything about Japanese food unless it had been an anime. When he spoke in Japanese, apparently he had like a high pitched anime voice because he was speaking in a really ridiculous way.
Actually, yeah, that's a funny thing that's always mentioned. And do you know what? It took me years to figure it out, and it wasn't really until like my mum's big theatre geek. And I started to see a difference between acting on stage and acting on camera, where I could comprehend it. Like I was into my teens at this stage, like early teens. And I noticed something that was strange. All the Asian movies I was watching, they always talk and act in a particular style. And it reminded me more of acting for stage than it did real life. It was more exaggerated because they seem to be playing to the back.
It's the fact
that house, you know.
It's the fact that whenever something dramatic happens, the person always has their back turned away and they spin around. So what did you say? It's that kind of thing, and the projection is very.
No, but seriously, like the acting style.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have known anything about kabuki theatre or anything like that at the time, but I noticed that the style, for me, it lent itself more to theatre. And I was like, when people were shitting on Asian movies and like that weren't necessarily action movies or hard-boiled dramas, even if they were gangster movies, like they go, oh, they're really fucking overacting, they're really hamming it up. Yeah, by our standards, yes, but by their standards, that's normal.
Yeah,
you know, so it took me a while to get into it, and like on and off during those periods, I'd hear music as well, you know, because now obviously mostly anime themes, but the thing about it was that I was like, it was actually strangely, it felt more relatable to me in a way, because they were dealing with like fantastical themes. Those are kind of animes that I went for anyway, you know, big space operas or magic or, you know, fight stuff. But it appealed to me because there was a consistent narrative.
Yes.
There was a story arc. It wasn't just episode, lesson learned. Episode, lesson learned.
I see what you mean. From a young age, I think it's when you suddenly get... like most of the things, like you say, it's just sort of like a story arc per episode. But when you suddenly see something where there's a appeal to follow a bigger plot line, that is very engaging. I mean, you see most TV nowadays. I mean, I'm not a big TV watcher, but anyone can see TV. If you even go back 15 years, almost everything you saw on television was episodic, whereas now everything's designed around big narratives. And I think, actually, I know this is a very different thing, but I think one of the biggest drives behind that was Breaking Bad, because Breaking Bad really changed people's approach towards what a good TV series should be. After that, there was a lot of change.
In terms of general TV stuff, Breaking Bad, there's a couple before that, but in terms of sci-fi fantasy, that was already happening in the 90s. So the perfect example is Star Trek. Star Trek was an episodic television show.
Very much
so, It always had been. Even the Next Generation, when it came along, it did have a few story arcs and a few character arcs, but it was very episodic. Like they'd have their two-parters and that kind of thing, but that was really it. Then you had two shows, Babylon 5 and DS9, and they went for big story arcs, and that was like I saw those arcs going on, and I'm reminded of those kind of like cartoons that I was watching, like Robotech and stuff like that. Although yes, Robotech does have a very convoluted history. Don't fucking give me shit over that.
I don't even know what it is.
No. I mean.
You mean the audience? You mean the audience? Yeah.
But they're like, yeah. Well, I assume. I think we're still just chatting, and it's your grandmother listening, which is fine and fair enough. She thinks you're the most handsome.
Hey! Just because she subscribed 300 times under 300 different accounts does not mean you have a right to be rude.
In fairness, the reason why she has 300 accounts was because she kept listening to that Nigerian scammer. But he's a prince. Oh, mother of God.
Well, somehow she did get that. She got that palace from somewhere. So that's all I can say.
But in terms of where I am now, like I'm more au fait with what goes on in Japan. That's not to say I am an expert or even, let's say, an ardent fan of Japanese culture as a whole. I can't speak the language, but I can recognize a few bits and bobs here and there.
Nani?
You know?
Admit it. That's the word. That's the word you know.
No. The other word I know is Baka! But that was the thing, like, when you watch anime, in Japan, they don't insult people like we do here.
No, it's very different. It's very different.
So when you heard the insults during a movie or during an anime, it was calling them a fool, like it was saying, you're a motherfucker. And yeah. I was just entranced by that, because I was like, really?
Foolishness is that harsh an insult. To call someone a fool is that harsh. Yeah, I think...
I mean, like, I can turn around to somebody and go, honestly, I've seen late portions that have had more of a lifetime. And that's an insult.
I'm so glad that your line kind of slightly cut out during you saying that, because I worked out what you said there, and I'm glad that did not entirely make it through.
But the other variation is, in Japan, they're just like, fool. Like, fuck, yeah, cool, let's do that. So that's kind of the culmination of where the name came from.
The interesting, I don't know exactly how this relates, but there's an interesting side to that, and I've mentioned this a few times before, is, I mean, I guess it's a generational thing, but I think for our generation, the general thing is that swearing is okay so long as it's contextual. If it's contextualized, if it's properly done, if you're just using it because you're too lazy to actually use real words, then it's seen as a negative thing, but people are not like shocked by it. But if you know a Japanese person in Japan, usually is probably the best way to test this, who can speak English. Well, I mean, because it's very different culture when they're travelled, they might have seen other things. But
I like the way you had to be specific. Find them in Japan.
Well, no, because that is a very that is a very big difference. I mean, like the same thing. If you find anyone outside of their culture, then they tend to be very different from what you associate with their culture. But if you meet a Japanese person in Japan, whether they've travelled or not, if they live in Japan, if you use any swearing in front of them, even if it's just something like you drop something, and go, oh fuck, almost every example I've seen a lot of examples, they get really shocked, like, oh, you can't say that. And I'm thinking, well, hold up a second. Why are you telling me I can't say this? And then you kind of realise that they have been told that these words are appalling travesties. But it's not part of their culture. They've just been told, Western people, they have these certain words they cannot say. And then they hear you say it, and then you have to explain to them, well, actually, no, that's not the way it works. And then
George Garland all over again. But
then again, I have, for example, just as a counter, I have a couple of Japanese friends who lived when they were adults, when they're 18, they moved to Australia for quite a significant period of time. Then they moved back to Japan, and they, You,
No,
you know where that's going.
next.
Yeah, you know where it's going. I mean, but it's not like they overswear, but they swear contextually. You know, they will throw in swear words. And it's just because they get it can be used naturally.
Strangely enough, in as far as dealing with English people when I was growing up, and I did spend a lot of time in the UK. Prior to meeting yourself, I'm sorry I cheated on you with other individuals.
Son of a bitch.
You know, not the worst thing I'm going to be called even by myself today.
I have to ramp up this interview a bit, won't I?
But the funny thing is that in Ireland, like, the word fuck was a Swiss Army knife, you know, or feck.
Yeah.
And it was used as everything. Whereas I noticed in the UK, depending on where I was, it wasn't so much contextualized as in whether you should use it or not, or I didn't hear use it in every conversation. As in, I'd be talking to somebody, but swear words weren't sprinkled in.
Depends on where you are. Yeah, it depends where you are.
I haven't really seen that change, but I noticed it's something at least where I come from, where I'm like, why the fuck wouldn't you say that? It's abso-fucking-lutely, not absolutely. Why would you?
I mean, yeah.
Why would you bother?
That's more of a predominantly Irish thing, I think. But it's not to say that there are places in England when it's done, but it's more of a it's a cultural difference in most places. Yeah.
It's something that I noticed. So when you mention that, like, he went to Australia and came back, just like, we don't know. He just says, "What the fuck is going on here, mate?"
It's just the constant swearing, constant swearing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I've always been intrigued by these differences though, because it is just like it's amazing how Western people see Japanese culture wrong, and I think that a lot of the time Japanese people have been given a very falsified version of the West. I still maintain, I don't know if it was you who I discussed this with, but I heard this somewhere that don't cut me off if you know this, because I'm going to say this anyway. I think it was a discussion I had with you, that when Japanese people go to Paris, that the embassy in Paris has a special hotline for people who are almost morbidly disappointed, because they've been given such an impression of Paris as being the city of love. And if you've ever been there, Paris is okay, but it's not like this amazing romantic Van Gogh painting. It's got some beautiful buildings, but it's pretty quiet. It's not like a massive expressive European thing that a lot of people are expecting. So apparently Japanese people were so disappointed in some instances that they were calling the embassy out of shock.
Do you know what? I'm going to claim that as mine, because it certainly sounds like something I would have found out about. I'm not entirely sure that I said it, but if I did say it to you, I know where we were. I know we were sitting on the phone in a team in between calls, and I was like,
"Oh God, back there,
fucking crack up."
we. If anyone doesn't know, me and Bubbles met through work in probably the most depressing of places, but yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually have a look at this. I'm going to Google this to see if this is correct. Japanese hotline, Paris.
I think it was one of those news stories that kind of. I think its origins has been obscured.
I think so.
It may be just that there was lots of Japanese people just complaining to the embassy, and
maybe.
The embassy went,
oh,
let's just put in a phone.
Oh no! Not only is it true, but there's actually a Wikipedia page where it's got a syndrome name. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Paris syndrome? It's a thing. That's really Paris syndrome. It's even got a French name. The French name. One guess at what the French name for Paris syndrome would be.
Monday.
One honest guess. One honest guess at what the French translation of Paris syndrome would be.
Pitan.
It's Syndrome de Paris.
That sounds like more like syndrome of Paddy's. This is the problem when Ireland went to the European Football Championships and they ended up in Paris.
Let me read this first of all, though. It also has the Japanese name because it is a Japanese generated thing, where it's called Paris Shokogun. Is a sense of disappointment exhibited by some individuals when visiting or going on vacation to Paris, specifically, not just anywhere, disappointing, who feel that Paris is not as beautiful as they had expected it to be. The syndrome is characterized by a number of psychiatric symptoms, such as acute delusional states, hallucinations, feelings of persecution, prejudice, aggression, or hostility from others, derealization, depersonalization, anxiety, and also psychosomatic manifestations such as dizziness, tachycardia, sweating, and others such as vomiting. There have been people vomiting because Paris is so disappointing. Now, I've been told on this channel before that I'm too hard on the French. I've got nothing against the French. I've been to France several times. Actually, I just sounded like someone who said I'm not racist because I have black friends. But I have been to France several times. I'm not racist.
Yeah, that one French subscriber is now fucked off. I just went, these cunts.
Oh, man.
Do you know what's funny, though? That's they've just experienced France as it should be. Absolute existential crisis.
Clocks melting everywhere.
It's like Descartes. They're just like, well,
Dali was Spanish. Dali was Spanish. Sorry.
No, Descartes. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was talking about
just
Dali.
hand you a map. You know, the tourist sites, and a book of Descartes.
Fuck off.
And just like beret, just fucking go for it.
I mean,
beatnik. But it's the most brilliant thing.
Yeah.
Because when the impression of Japan, at least for me, is one that once it got to World War II, once they lost, they kind of lost identity for a while. But they took on a Western identity. But just like I only understood Japan through that entertainment culture, they only understood the West through the entertainment culture. So you have this weird matchup over there. Like, remember I told you about that, the robot dinosaur cafe?
Yeah, no, yeah. No.
Yeah, so you have things like that, but the opposite is them going to Paris and going, the fuck
is this? I think that actually you've made an interesting point there. I think it's a bit of a duel of two things. In that, in one way, after the war, it would appear to me that they fell back on a lot of quintessentially very Japanese characteristics, and yet a lot of the style. Because I mean, they had to find a new way of expressing themselves. Similar, actually. I mean, everywhere after the Second World War, the sort of rock and roll generation, it was all about finding a new way to express yourself. And I think Japan, it took longer for them to recover, which is why their sort of whole pop music scene didn't occur as so quickly, because obviously they had much of a rebuild to do and much more cultural change to go through. Yeah. But when they did that, they picked up on a lot of the revolutionary sort of cultural revolution styles of like the 60s in the West. But they did have their quintessentially Japanese things. I mean, there's so many articles on the relationship between like the invention of Godzilla, like the Godzilla movies, and the Japanese psyche after the war. Which are really interesting. I've read some of them. It's really fascinating, actually.
To give you a little bit of background, obviously Godzilla was the kind of metaphor for.
Bye.
By the way,
see you later.
I'm just going for a beer.
Keep talking. We can still hear you.
The counterpoint to that was actually Astro Boy. It was a robot that used atomic power, and it was to show that the idea being is that this isn't as bad as you think. Yeah, it can do something terrible, but it can do other stuff as well. So you got a wide swath of things. Although I'm kind of chuckling away to myself to like think about. Right, you had your mate go to Australia for years and come back. And you have the people going to Paris. So one has Paris syndrome, the other has Stockholm syndrome because he's swearing too much now. And Christ knows what happens when they end up in Ireland. They're just like, well, they actually did drink. And they do have traditional music, but the swearing.
I don't think anyone would be that surprised by the swearing. Although after seeing the show that was on NHK before the show that I was on last night, and when I say I was on, I mean I was on for the briefest time talking about choreography, against my will. Don't get me started. The show before that was like a travel program for Japanese people trying to like get used to foreign cultures, and it was being filmed in a town in Australia, and it was amazing the way you could tell that every person who the presenter was meeting was clearly set up in advance, told roughly what to say, and given a sort of a script. And I just looked at him. I was like, "You guys are not behaving at all Australian. I'm finding this very deeply concerning. I've met Australian people. They are not this easy to push over."
I can see the interpreters working overtime going, no, they thought they were here to see Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. But you've just showed us some cultural stuff. Where's the drag queens? We understood there would be drag. That's the only reason we're here. They were normal human men that powered up into a drag queen, anime style.
I like how you make it sound like Power Rangers, where if enough men get together, then you end up with a drag queen.
You clearly have never gone on holiday with me. We should remedy that.
I'm thankful for some things in life, and that remains one of them.
I used to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The fan events.
He means he did every angle of that.
Well, actually, I did play the asshole. I did play Riff. I did play Frankenfurter at one stage for a laugh, because all Frankenfurters need curves. I did all that fun stuff, so I am not opposed to a pair of fishnets and a basket.
This is actually one of the things that makes it so interesting, is because in the same way that James approaches everything Japanese from a totally different angle, he's got a totally different background. Like yourself as well. Like if James talks about anything he likes outside of Japanese things, I don't know what he's talking about. And it's kind of the same with you. If you talk about anything you like outside of Japanese things, I don't know what you're talking about. Which is why I think that's one of the nice bases of our friendship, is that we are totally unaware of what the other one likes a lot of the time, and yet we have some amazingly good common ground.
I'm just amazed at your reactions when I tell you stuff, because I don't think I can live in a world where I don't have a glazed look from Howard at any time I talk about things other than Japan. Because you see, I can chat to you about Japan, and I can see in your eyes, I'm going to correct him. I'm going to correct him. Correct himself, but let me be pedantic. But outside of Japan, it's just like, I too am a human boy.
It's
delightful. I have played with all the foot and balls.
He's giving detail and context, so I must assume these things are real. But beyond his own speech patterns, I have no evidence to back this up.
I understand the joke. Culturally, I have no idea what you're doing. I'm going to laugh appropriately.
I understand the joke. Unfortunately, I have no idea what the poor epileptic boy did to deserve it.
Well, now he knows. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, look, as we've only got a short amount of time on this one before we have to round this one up for today, and we will do a follow-up on this, certainly, I wanted to get your opinion, because obviously, now one of the things I really enjoyed talking a lot about Japanese music with you on the channel previously, before we had to restart everything, and obviously a lot of the old content was lost or had to be archived, and we can't re-upload. The thing is, though, is that obviously I know you went into a lot of this not knowing, or not even consequently remembering the names of the artist. I just wanted to see if you could describe or mention, or maybe if you're lucky, name anything during your time listening to Japanese music with us previously that really stood out to you. And then so we can try.
I really loved, do you remember that band, the Vinegar Rabbits?
The what?
The Vinegar Rabbits. They had this song, I think it translated as driving to work in a purple banana.
This was not on our channel, surely.
I love that. Yeah, it was. It was. It was about. It was about. It was about 18. I'm lying, but the band names are so fucking weird. You were on board with it. You were just like, yeah.
Do you know what the best thing is? I've just Googled it.
I'm glad I got in there before you stepped on my joke. To be honest, there's my first exposure to Japanese music in general, as I said, was the anime themes and stuff like that. But speaking with yourself and getting to know you, and kind of being, I wouldn't say forced. I was a willing participant, but it was more for shits and giggles. Kind of to go into that end of thing, it was really, really interesting. So I know you had the big names like Bandmaiden, Scandal, and I was enthralled with the whole idea of baby metal. Not because of how they looked, but it was more the fact they had a song called Chocolate and rocked out, and they were girls. And I was like, in terms of stereotype, there's a lot of different messages going on there. Girls like chocolate. Okay, grand, no problem. We all understand that, especially around once a month, as the stereotype goes. But the whole idea was like they were fucking in nappies and rock, and it was a decent rock thing.
Oh, you mean age-wise? Yeah, I thought you meant actually in nappies. No, age-wise they were in.
I told you about that other site, Lady Nappies. They do more dubstep. But like from
sorry, I'm just imagining like a bass drop with the sound of a baby pooping. Now, carry on.
Jesus, your wank material is fucking unreal. Ever since you moved to Japan, you got worse than that Paris syndrome, let me tell you. But what I got was, it's not so much a one, I'd say, or one journey that I remember. What I remember was the lens it was all put through. Right, so I'd listen to a Scandal song and I kept saying to it, this sounds like a '90s teen rom-com high school movie kind of sound, and you'd be like, yeah, it can't sound like that, and it's not wrong, it's like some of them sound like that, but that's not to say it's out of place or out of touch. What I liked was that it was put in their own way. That's the main thing. Of course, we had some fucking absolute abortions like Perfect Human. Jesus.
Well, I introduced you to that because I wanted to share the suffering, because I felt I'd been suffering too much and I needed you to go through it as well. But Perfect Human was not as bad as USA by The Pump.
USA by The Pump. Firstly, if you're gonna have a band that's...
It sounds so much better in your accent.
These bollockses went, what's the most sexual thing in English that you can do by yourself, with others, an animal, in a group? The Pump? Let's go with that.
You shouldn't work in a bike shop, you'd get very horny.
I'm not going to lie, I think the letdown would have been in a bike shop. Puncture included. Sorry, fun included. But that song... Honestly,
it's fucking appalling.
You said, I swear thee to fuck. All I could think was some sort of Japanese American 80s action movie fighting communism. That's it. There was you would have a completely unknown but completely known and revered Japanese actor versus some sort of bulky misfit for a Hollywood crossover. The best kind of, not Rush Hour, like this would be more disturbing.
It's got to be Ken Watanabe.
Ooh,
a young Ken Watanabe.
It's not a bad one. Yeah. Well, he did Rising Sun, didn't he? No, wait. That was with Sean Connery, but. Was it Ken? No,
I don't think it was Ken.
A different guy. Yeah, but the whole concept of the song was just devoid of any what do you call those important things?
Music,
emotion, creativity,
inspiration.
Inspiration. There was definitely perspiration. You could hear it in the song. That was whatever Japan passes for rave era. Pass me the fucking E, fucking dance. That was just it was
hard. I mean, the thing is,
even seeing the video. Well, there was video.
Oh, you didn't watch the video? Please tell me you didn't watch the video, because we did it as audio. We did it as audio because I wanted to save you from the video, because the video was so. I felt that I needed you to concentrate on how hateful the song was.
Hey! No! You don't get to do that. You don't get to turn around like a domestic abuser going, I slapped you. I didn't punch you this time. What the fuck? Why are you complaining? No. You don't get to do that. You have to really, really understand that as somebody sitting in a room, and my situation was bad sitting in that room, and you threw that song at me, and yet somehow I had to wake up the next morning and go and do things like an average human.
How's the therapy going?
All I could hear was when I did something good. USA! And I was like, that's it, that's my fault. So you know what I had to do after that? I listened to a bunch of rebel songs, hating the English, just to get back to normal. Like, Come Out You Black and Tans was on constant fucking replay after, just to deal with your shit. And I swore to myself, I'd never fucking help you again. And
that's how the channel was born. And that's how the channel was born. Literally, I think that was like the last one we did before we switched over from the radio to Baka Breakdown, and we moved that onto Baka Breakdown. Or was that the first one we did on Baka Breakdown? It was one of those.
No. It was definitely the radio show.
Okay. Well, actually, one of the interesting things is, because, I mean, I do think there's an interesting comparison. We hit those two songs very early, which was USA by The Pump and Perfect Human. But yeah. I think Perfect Human can be accepted on the fact that Perfect Human clearly is, whether it's doing it effectively or not, it's mocking itself. It is done by someone of comic background, and it is deliberately supposed to be a riff on sort of arrogant EDM. Now, it does come across so effectively that it becomes irritating itself. That's the problem.
No. You want to bring it in like Gangnam Style.
I think it was trying to be the Japanese Gangnam Style.
With it, my only problem was this: the chorus. I'm a puppet.
I'm a puppet woman.
How many lines did I come up? What, like you said? What is he saying? I'm like, I'm a communist.
That's right.
Whatever it fucking was.
We came up with so many lines that you thought it sounded like. Because that's right. I told you that I wasn't going to tell you the title of the song. And then you tried to guess the title of the song, and you guessed so many things. I'm proletarian.
I'm the proletariat. Like, what in the stuttering deaf fuck did you send me?
I'm a proletarian.
I could not. It was absolutely glorious in its execution of annoying me.
Yes.
It was par excellence. Like, it was, like, I was sitting there going, yeah, we need a new play. And a couple of years later, we get it. So I'm just saying, your work here is done.
But
I can go back to the home planet.
I just want to point out, I know, I checked before we went on here. I remember what the 3 songs that irritated you most of all were. And I just want to remind you. First of all is The Pump's USA. Second of all was Mihimaru GT's rap cover of I Should Be So Lucky. And you were so disheartened by that you watched the video for that as well. But the other one, which I think you've forgotten about, was the skater punk cover of PPAP by Pikotaro. I've never known you cut off a song and refuse to listen to it, because you got to the bit where it was like, I have a pen, I have an apple, and you stopped it. You're like, that's it, I'm done.
No. no.
I spent
You have to coax me around on the rest of the time. You're like, this, no, like, no.
That was
like, we need to do a show.
We had that entire show was us listening to covers of PPAP. We had like a orchestral one, we had a country one, we had the beatbox one was amazing. It was a one-person beatbox cover, which is fantastic. But the skater punk one, I had to do that too, and it was the most whiny skater punk cover I've ever heard of anything. And just I could feel you dying inside. There was a metal cover as well, which you got through, but I think that song killed you a little bit inside.
It's slowly coming back to me, and why would you inflict this on my therapist tomorrow when I talk to him? I have
regression is important. You have to face your demons to recover.
Yeah, you say regression, I say retard. So
you call yourself whatever you want, my man. You call yourself whatever you want.
It's my star sign.
I'm in the waxing of retard.
Beautiful things. That's been some beautiful, beautiful stuff. But then again, I send you stuff from Ireland that drives you up the fucking wall.
Well, half the time I just watch it and just go, the fuck?
Yeah, I've yet to buy that once that will kind of live with you for days. That slowly like herpes, just
burns away at you. Yeah.
And so you'll be actually wishing for the bears. That's all I'm saying. Wishing for the fucking bears. Just like, take me now.
Your eyes have got like there was a certain deep rage in your eyes there. I can see you staring through the camera into my soul. So anyway, look, we're going to pick this up again in another podcast sometime soon. But I just wanted to round this one up because we said we were going to do an hour today. And I think we covered that nicely because we got a lot to discuss, so we need to pace ourselves. Nonetheless, though, we have kids. We have. I just wanted to say, honestly, from myself, a big thank you for finding the time to do this. And I am hoping, obviously, we don't know in what context, but we're thinking we're going to get you back on some stuff on the channel in the coming months. I know you've been helping, advising with some little projects and ideas I've had, and we're talking about maybe we'll do some more live chats as well with yourself involved. But obviously, in all good time, hopefully it'll be nice to have you back on. I know you've got a lot of your own stuff going on at the moment, so it'll be great. It'd be great to have you back when it's possible. But it's just a pleasure to know that you're still around, sir.
Yeah. Just let me just take a minute to give a shout out to the Baka crew, just in general, old and new. Especially the older ones. Listen, lads and lasses, it's been an absolute pleasure. You didn't drive me away from the fucking channel or any bullshit like that. If you're ever thinking it, definitely not. I am dealing with my own stuff, but the thing about it was I wasn't in it for fans and stuff, but I got to connect with some of you via various fucking means, and it's been a joy to deal with. It's been fun, it's been a laugh, and I hope you're as welcoming to any of the new people. And new people, I hope you're as welcoming to new, just join the channel, subscribe, and anything like that, because although the humor is dark, I want you to have a laugh. I want you to have an outlet. I want you to sit down, listen to a review, take the piss a little. Yeah, no problems, but I want you to know that there's a decent community there of people who will go have a laugh for you, look out for you when needs be. Just like Howard's looking out for himself, and I look out for Howard, mostly through a sniper rifle, but I look out for him.
By the way, I was just
in case there's any Eurovision joys that he passes my fucking direction. Just
to cover that quickly, actually, I don't think you're aware, because I know that you've backed away from social media a lot just to deal with a lot of other things. But the Korea video, the long-awaited story about last summer in Korea, that is due for the coming weekend. So as a result, people will be able to see what looking out for Howard looks like in a very real sense.
Oh, really? Are they going to find out about the people I sent for you? I mean, what? I'm only joking. Actually, that would be a good idea to follow up on. because we like it was a good video to do. It was actually genuinely cathartic for myself to kind of. I didn't get a lot off my chest, but telling the side that I was seeing it was nice because it was a stressful time for you. I completely understand, but for me, it was coming at quite a bad time for myself, and then this happens. I was like, right. While it took me out of my thing for a bit, it left me with a kind of, an anxiety for you being, an anxiety for you that I couldn't help as much as I thought. But, that's for another episode.
Yeah, I'm glad the thing is we managed to keep secret basically what happened up until this point so that we can properly present it. So I'm looking forward to putting that through. And thank you as well, obviously, for your great contribution towards that project as well. All right, anyway. Look, it's been a real pleasure, sir. I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm going to stop this video now. I'm going to say a big thank you to everyone at home watching. Like I say, Bubbles, in whatever context, he'll be around. He's always around somewhere.
Lurking.
Yeah, I was about to say that we have to think about how we contextualize that properly. But anyway, a big thank you to you guys, as always, for watching. And we'll be back for another one of these live chats, I'm sure, not too far in the future. And like I say, Bubbles will be hopefully joining us on something else. Thank you to the person outside who beeped. I know there's big international support. International! So anyway, for now from Japan, until we see you soon on the next one of these, and until Bubbles recovers, ciao ciao, you rude bastard.